Long ago, in the hills of ancient Israel, two armies faced each other across a valley, and absolutely nobody wanted to go first. On one side stood the Philistines, powerful, armoured, and very sure of themselves. On the other side stood the Israelites, chosen by God, brave in spirit, and at this particular moment, extremely nervous. Then the ground began to shake. Something enormous was coming out of the Philistine camp. His name was Goliath. He was over 9 feet tall, covered head to toe in bronze armour, and he had absolutely never lost a fight. He also had a very high opinion of himself, which, to be fair, nobody had ever argued with. Every single morning, Goliath walked into that valley and shouted the same challenge across to the Israelites. "Send me your best warrior," he bellowed. "One fight. Winner takes everything." For 40 days, not a single Israelite soldier stepped forward. 40 days. Back home, a young shepherd named David was just doing his regular job, talking to sheep and occasionally fighting lions with his bare hands. Normal stuff.
His father Jesse sent him to the battlefield, not to fight, but to bring his brothers some food. When David arrived at camp and heard Goliath's daily speech, he had a very different reaction than everyone else. While every trained soldier trembled, this teenager tilted his head and asked, "Wait, why is nobody doing anything about that guy?" His older brother Eliab was not impressed. "Go back to your sheep, David. This is grown-up stuff." David ignored this completely and kept asking questions until word reached King Saul himself. King Saul looked at this kid standing in his royal tent and was, let's say, not immediately convinced. "You're just a boy," said Saul. David smiled. "I've killed lions and bears with my hands. I'll be fine." Saul had no better plan, so he offered David his royal armour. It was enormous. It did not fit. David politely returned the armour, picked up his shepherd's staff, and walked toward the valley. Just like that. On his way down, David stopped at a stream and calmly picked up 5 smooth stones.
5 stones. Not because he doubted, but because Goliath had 4 brothers, and David was thorough. When Goliath saw who the Israelites had sent to fight him, he burst out laughing. "They sent me a child? A child with a stick? Am I a dog?" The valley echoed with his laughter. David didn't laugh back. He didn't run. He just kept walking forward, steady as the hills around him. "You come with a sword and a spear," David called out. "I come in the name of the Lord." The wind went quiet. Even the birds stopped. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. David reached into his pouch. His fingers closed around the first stone. He placed the stone in his sling. He began to spin it, slowly at first, then faster and faster. Goliath stopped laughing. Something in the boy's eyes made the giant feel something he had never felt before. The stone left the sling like a crack of thunder. It crossed the valley in less than a second. It found its mark perfectly. The giant fell. The ground shook when he hit the earth. Every soldier on both sides felt it. Silence. Complete silence. Then, from the Israelite hillside, one small voice started cheering. Then another voice, then 100, then the whole hillside erupted. The Philistine army looked at their fallen champion. Then they looked at each other. Then they ran. An entire army, running from one teenager with a sling and a very strong faith. King Saul watched from the hillside, mouth open.
He had absolutely no words. David walked back across the valley the same way he had walked in, calm, unhurried, and completely at peace. The soldiers who had trembled for 40 days now rushed down the hill to meet him. They lifted him on their shoulders. The boy who brought lunch ended up changing history. That night, around fires across the camp, everyone told the same story over and over again. A boy nobody expected, a stone nobody feared, a giant nobody could stop, until someone decided not to be afraid. David didn't win because he was the biggest. He didn't win because he had the best weapons. He won because he knew something the giant never figured out. That true strength doesn't start in your muscles, it starts in your heart. Goliath spent 40 days asking for a fight. David spent 40 days talking to God in open fields. One was preparing to intimidate, the other was preparing his soul. Only one of those preparations actually worked. And here is what this story has whispered to every generation since. Your giant doesn't have to be 9 feet tall. Your giant might be fear, doubt, a problem that feels too big, a voice that says you're too small. But somewhere in this old story is a reminder. One step of real courage, taken in faith, can change absolutely everything. The giant laughed, then came the stone, and nothing was ever the same again. Before you go, think about the giant in your life right now. Not the 9-foot kind, the kind that makes you hesitate, the kind that makes you feel too small. David's story isn't just ancient history. It's a reminder that the right move, made with courage and faith, is always stronger than the biggest obstacle in the room. You are not too small. You are just getting started.